offer input throughout. We have colleagues that will be monitoring that. Thank you all so much for joining today. My name is Olivia Ross. I'm a community engagement partner here at Citizens. I'm thrilled to have everybody here today to talk about some exciting offerings here at Citizens. Just a couple more quick housekeeping items. We are going to record this session to make it available for reference, and for anybody who was not able to attend, we will circulate the session recording, the materials, as well as a post-event survey after the call. So you can all keep an eye out for that. And with that, I'm just going to dive right into it. We've got a pretty ambitious agenda today, so I want to waste no time. We like to start with this slide, which is Citizens Community Mission. Between customers and colleagues, Citizens has a presence in all 50 states, and we know that each of those different areas experience their own unique challenges, and that these challenges require bold and innovative solutions. That's why we are committed to leveraging our resources, including our colleagues, to equip organizations with the tools that they need to help the communities where we live and work thrive. During this National Financial Literacy and Volunteer Month, we're excited to share some standout opportunities and standout ways that Citizens and our colleagues can help serve each of your organizations in order to deepen our relationship and really continue to further amplify our collective impacts. Today, we will hear from some Citizens colleagues. First, Maria Tubbs, who's a program manager with Community Development. She will be sharing information with us on Citizens Money Essentials program, which is Citizens' own financial education modules. Then we'll hear from Melissa Treslow and Dan McPherson, both community engagement partners here at Citizens, on some valuable colleague engagement initiatives that we have to offer. And then we want to leave plenty of time for some Q&A with each of the speakers at the end. But we've got some exciting stuff to cover today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maria for a quick intro and to kick us off into Citizens Money Essentials.
Thank you so much, Olivia, and good morning, everybody. It's a delight to be able to join you all and share an exciting new program that we have to offer in community. And so with that, Olivia, if you can take us to the next slide. So in our mission and community development and how we know we can foster strong communities and enhance wealth equity, one of the main ways that we can do that is by promoting financial education and getting out and sharing our expertise, having our colleagues get out and volunteer in community and teach our new programming. And so happy to share with this group that as part of our celebration of April and Financial Literacy Month, we are launching our newly branded Citizens Money Essentials program, which is the bank's financial education programming. So I will take a moment and share with you a bit about the program. And Olivia, if you can get to the next slide. So what can you expect from Citizens Money Essentials? You know, one of the things that we really took a lot of care with is we've been working a lot with community organizations and partners and trying to understand how can we get out and teach courses that will really help folks learn stronger money management skills and have them reflect on what they're currently doing, because we know that stats that Olivia kind of shared on the previous slide are, you know, there is a gap and there is a growing need each day for folks to learn money management skills. How do they better utilize and make their money go further? And so our team kind of put together a list of courses that we can share and promote in our communities. And so what can you expect when you book one of these sessions? Well, we have, you know, one of the things that we really take great pride in is that we have colleagues who are willing to get out in community, volunteer their time, and share their expertise. And so we train colleagues on how to best deliver these courses. And, you know, we talk to them about how to connect with audiences, how to share examples, so that the content, it isn't just standing up and saying, you know, you should budget better or you should save more, retirement's really important, but that we give those real world, real life examples and make the course is relatable, and we know that the better that our volunteers are trained to do that, the more folks in community will actually take some of the advice and start applying some of what they're learning in our courses. So we have expert-led sessions with colleagues that we've trained specifically to deliver these programs and these sessions. We know that making the sessions accessible and free to attend is really important. So our goal is to go out in community and share our expertise. The only thing we're charging is your time, right? So we know that if we're going to have folks come in and spend time, which we all have such a limited amount of, we want to make the sessions free and accessible to the audiences that we're working with. And we tried very hard to think about what are the topics that are going to make the most impact if someone comes to our courses and starts to implement some of these skills and things that we're talking to them about in the programs right away, going to have the greatest impact on them. So we have courses like, budgeting and how to improve credit, how to have strategies for savings. We walk and, we're trying to demystify the home buying process, the retirement process, and so much more. So we're trying to really, talk about real world topics that are affecting families and individuals in our communities each and every single day. The other piece to this is we really try to be cognizant of understanding that we all happen to be at different financial journeys. And so we try to have a broad spectrum of curriculum that could really speak to folks, no matter if they're just starting out, if they're trying to get a refresher, or if there's somebody a little bit more advanced. We wanted to have content that really spoke to folks at different points in their journey. So I think that there's many benefits to this program, but I think on the next slide, we'll see just some of the couple of high level benefits. We know that by equipping folks with real life tools that they can begin to implement right away, it will have a significant impact on how they manage their finances. And just our goal is to get them to think differently about how they're managing their money today and what could they be doing better that really sets them up for success. So our goal is to inspire confidence and to ensure that folks understand that no matter where you are today in your financial journey, it doesn't mean that that has to be your final destination. You have the opportunity to continue to grow, and as you learn more about how to manage your finances, you can really empower yourself and build strong financial habits. So our goal in the courses is to give practical tools and tips so that folks can really feel like they can take a hold of their financial future by starting to implement some of these strategies right away. We also share many of our resources. So obviously, we know that the programming in the classes and having access to expert-led sessions is really vital, but we know that the learning shouldn't end when the classes and the sessions are completed. So during our courses, we do quite a bit of work sharing with folks. Our .com site has a wealth of articles where people can continue their journey if they want to learn more about saving or budgeting or retirement planning, or how to manage someone else's finances, or how to protect yourself from fraud. The learning doesn't just need to end and be a one and done opportunity. We know that by connecting folks to some of the resources that are out there, we can help them continue their journey and continue their experience. And then the other piece that we really take great care with is really educating our volunteers with ensuring that they create an environment that's not only engaging and promotes participation, but also just is very open. There's no silly question when it comes to managing your finances. I find when I teach these classes myself that when people ask questions, it's kind of the opportunity for everyone to learn. So we want to really create this environment that's very welcoming and that's kind of like a judgment-free space. You can ask us anything and it's not going to be a silly question. We're just trying to really help people understand better ways to manage their finances. And so if you hit the next slide here, Olivia, I can share with you the course listing, but before I go into this, I should also mention to you that, one of the things that we took also a lot of time to think about when we were developing our programming. We wanted to be able to gather real-time feedback from participants. So I can share with you the beginning of March is when we launched our programming. And I just shared with you the many benefits. Those benefits are kind of informed from some of the stats that we've seen. We do surveys at the end of every class now. So we are able to hear directly from participants to help us improve and enhance the experience for the future. And so I'm happy to share with you that from the courses that we've run in through March and through April, we've had 100% of folks who have come through say that they would not only recommend these classes to a friend, but that they found the topic to be relevant, that they found the tools that we shared and the tips that we shared to be, in line with what they're looking to gain from the course and applicable to helping them improve their financial situation. And they're satisfied with the classes. So we're, one of the things we were really mindful of is not only is it important to produce something like this and put it out in community, but we want to make sure that we're constantly evolving the experience and that we're looking for ways to enhance it. And so these are the topics that we have from for the consumer side. So we, at this point, have a developed curriculum for consumer and then also for small business. We have some exciting things in the works, and I'll share a bit more about that as we go through. But as you can see, we, the courses begin with just the foundation. So this is a very basic overview of all of the topics. And I like to begin with, what are the basics? Because we give folks a little bit of a flavor for each of the topics that we're going to cover, but just making sure that everybody has a strong foundation to really set them up for success. From there, we talk about ways to budget and to save effectively. We take folks through developing their own budget. We talk about in this class what to do when you're short. What are some ways to increase income, decrease expenses, and more than that, I think we try as much as possible during our courses to help them think about if you're doing a joint budget, how can you have those money conversations with families? So not only are we talking about the basics of what's coming in and what's going out, but we want them to be able to feel empowered to have those conversations at homes. If they're doing joint budgets, how do you start a conversation about money at home? What are your money values? How does that drive your spending? And so we're really trying to get folks to reflect upon what they're doing today and where they would like to be, and then showing them the tools of how to get there. We know that debt is a tremendous barrier for a lot of folks, and so we wanted to have a whole program devoted to how to manage debt, and so that's the debt reduction session. And then obviously there's a lot of folks out there who have questions about borrowing and what are some strategies to borrowing. Not only do we talk about, when do you know you need to borrow, what are some strategies to borrowing, effectively, but we also get them to think about how do you save, so when does it make sense to save for something versus borrowing? And so really trying to get folks to think about every time they think about a need for borrowing, is that meeting, are they taking the steps to think about other options as well? Credit building is another important component. So we talk about building credit, establishing credit, maintaining credit. What does that look like so that you have a strong financial future? Because it affects, from employment decisions to housing decisions, and everything in between is important to credit. Homebuyer seminar basically demystifies the home buying process. So we talk, our mortgage loan officers deliver this class, and we basically talk through someone, from point A to point B. If you're just starting out or thinking about purchasing a home, what are some of the steps that you can do to get yourself ready? What does that home buying process look like? What's involved? And so that we really help you kind of think about buying a house and not being afraid of having those mortgage conversations. We know that fraud is a really big important thing right now. And so the other thing that we developed was how to shield your finances and common fraud schemes we review with folks and how to protect themselves. We really give them ideas of, making sure you have two-step authentication set up, or, refreshing your passwords. It's funny, I was at a friend's house yesterday and I was trying to figure out her Wi-Fi, and she said, my password's ABC123. And I was like, oh my gosh, you need my class, because that is like not a very strong password. So, general things like that of how to protect yourself from fraud, how to protect passwords, having strong, prevention up there is going to be important. The other thing we are very cognizant of, and one class that I'm actually personally very excited about, is the financial harmony. We know that we have a really big spread coming. And I think I read a stat recently that by 2030, more than half of the population will be 65 and over. And we're seeing more and more folks are having to help others manage their finances. And so how do you do that effectively? When you have an older adult and a financial caregiver, what are some of the considerations? What does a budget look like? What does those fraud conversations kind of look like? And how can you set some safety measures on accounts so that we're protecting older populations against fraud and whatnot is a huge thing at the moment. And so this class kind of is meant either for an older adult or a financial caregiver, or both, to come through the class to really have those conversations, because we know that as we start to see the population get older, we're going to see more and more of that. And then the last one is retirement. How do you retire in a way that sets you up comfortably? What are some things to think about when it comes to setting up IRAs and 401ks, and when is a good time to start saving? And so, the Retire Ready workshop talks all about investing and thinking about what comes next. So those are the topics from the consumer side. And then the small business side, we have a whole program also on the next slide. We know that small businesses are kind of like the heart of every community. And so we wanted to make sure we had a program for small business owners. And we do deliver this quite frequently in conjunction with some of our small business incubator partners. But essentially, we talk to small business owners all about, how to focus on the customer, how to think about their business operations, developing a strong strategy. We talk about financing their business and what some of those options are, but we also take them through, how do you have an elevator speech or communicate your business effectively to potential investors, to employees that you're looking to hire. We have a whole conversation on how to manage finances, and we talk about P&L and all of the different reports that, as a small business owner, help you have an understanding of how well you're doing and what are some areas of focus, how to maximize cash flow. And then last but not least, we have a conversation about optimizing businesses. So this really came out of COVID, when many business owners were finding themselves, in a very uncharted territory. And so how do you prepare yourself for the potential unknowns and do so effectively? So in a nutshell, that is the topics that we have for the consumer and the small business side of the Citizens Money Essentials program. We really tried to kind of think about every topic that could possibly be in someone's financial journey and kind of highlight some of those important things. And if you go to the next slide, Olivia. So we know that, as I mentioned before, the more knowledge and practical tools and tips that we can give and empower people with, the better they're going to fare financially. And so this is a way to kind of uplift the communities where we are operating in. And so we're really excited to share the programming. I'm also going to share with you, you're getting a sneak peek on this call because we haven't really communicated this yet, but we're working on Citizens Money Essential. We have consumer, small business, and we're working for students. So for our youth program, we know that young people, especially now, need some tools. And so that program is being developed as we speak, but hopefully we'll have a launch before the end of the year. And so many more topics that we're looking to take this in beyond the ones that I shared with you. And so with that, I will turn it over to Melissa, who will talk to us about skill-based volunteerism.
Great. Thanks, Maria. That was fantastic. I'm so excited about the refresh and the launch of our Money Essentials. I know that's going to come in handy to clients of all of our partners. Um, I'm coming at things from a little different perspective. And again, my name is Melissa Truslow, and as Olivia mentioned, I'm a community engagement partner. And I really focus on connecting our colleagues with our nonprofits in ways that they can support them through volunteerism, whether that's hands-on volunteerism or, as we're talking about today, skills-based volunteering. Skills-based volunteering we've been doing for a few years now at Citizens, but we are growing every year, and our colleagues are eager and ready to help you with your organizational capacity building challenges and opportunities. The way I describe it to colleagues, if you're volunteering at the food bank in a hands-on sense, you're probably moving product, delivering, serving people, etc. If you are serving the food bank as a skills-based volunteer, you might be reviewing their website. You might be helping them with an HR handbook, etc. Basically, any professional skill functional area that you can think of, we probably have someone who can help you. And the ways that we do this vary. We're pretty flexible. We have virtual days of service where we gather a group of nonprofits and a group of colleagues. We have up to 10 different projects going virtually during a day. We have projects that are outside of our day of service where we'll work one-on-one with you over the course of weeks or months. We have pitch competitions. You can see a picture here of our early career professionals. They annually compete against each other to deliver the best solutions and fresh perspectives they can to nonprofits. Again, that one's in person. We do these virtually. We have clinics in a box. For example, our legal colleagues helped about 18 nonprofits last year, looking at their bylaws for a refresh and making sure they were in compliance. So again, if you can dream it, we can do it. Our technology and facilities staff has developed an inventory system for a nonprofit that's providing brand new shoes to children's shelters. So my contact info is here. If you ever want to brainstorm a project, I would be happy to do so and then match you with some colleagues who can help you out. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Melissa. Now I'm going to transition to our colleague, Dan, who's going to share some more information about a different type of skills-based volunteering at Citizen. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Olivia. And yeah, as Olivia was just saying, from skills-based volunteering to our pinnacle skills-based volunteer opportunity that we have here at Citizens. So some of you may know that last year we launched our Citizens Community Service Sabbatical Program, which empowers our colleagues to spend 4 to 6 weeks with one of our nonprofit partners. So during this 4 to 6 week period, they're immersed at the nonprofit, spending that entire time focused on the work that's being done in their local community. So, and during that time, they still continue to be compensated from Citizens, so it doesn't come at any sort of expense to the nonprofit. It's a way for us to dig deeper with our skills-based volunteerism to have, that capacity building element with our nonprofit partners. So here's a great overview of the program. So last year we had 3 colleagues that were selected to be a part of this new opportunity, and we're looking to place an additional 3 or more colleagues in 2025. So again, it's 4 to 6 weeks where they are compensated from Citizens, and it's an opportunity for them to really immerse themselves with one of our great financial empowerment or workforce development partners. And what we really want to highlight is that these colleagues that we're selecting are really the cream of the crop here at Citizens. They represent the top 10% or so that need to meet a certain criteria to be eligible. And part of that criteria is community service and volunteerism. So these colleagues are very passionate and very excited to get involved and just excited about this opportunity to dig deeper with some of our partners. So they go through a very rigorous, application and interview process where we, review the application, see what their passions are, see what kind of fit they could be for one of our nonprofit partners. And once we have our colleagues selected, then we look to pair them with one of our nonprofit partners. So what we'll do is we'll reach out to this group, among others, to see if there's any sort of specific project that they're looking to address within their organization. And so what our colleagues can really bring to the table is, a fresh perspective, some expertise in the different fields that they've had experience in. We even have some colleagues that were flexing different muscles from their day-to-day work that they do at Citizens to be able to give back to a local partner, and really, providing that capacity building, strategic support, and community engagement is a big piece of it too. As you can tell, we're very passionate about giving back to our communities here at Citizens and providing these opportunities for our colleagues to engage. So during the sabbatical period, our colleagues also led volunteer projects to get other Citizens colleagues involved with their local communities. So it's something that we're very excited about how things went in year one, and we're really looking to build upon that in year two. So what you'll also see here on this slide is some nonprofit testimonials. So these are some quotes from each of the 3 nonprofit partners that we had last year. I'm not sure if any one of them are on the calls here, but really just great insight on the types of projects that people participated in. We had someone do a strategic plan with a nonprofit partner. We also had somebody with a financial background conduct a program analysis and develop a budget going forward for that organization. And we had another colleague that did a SWOT analysis for one of the upcoming fundraising initiatives for their local partner. So really it was, they love the opportunity to really kind of disconnect from Citizens for that 4 to 6 week period to really immerse themselves with these respective partners. And so as we're going through the process, I just want to highlight as well that we really look to make sure that we're fitting the colleague to the needs of that respective nonprofit. And again, it may not always be, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, but these colleagues have such a wide variety of skills that they can bring to the table. So it's an opportunity for them to grow professionally, as well as the nonprofits to really expand the work that they're doing in their respective communities. So really excited with the way things went. I'll also mention that all 3 of our colleagues from last year have remained actively involved with those nonprofit partners, with at least one of them joining one of the nonprofit boards since they served their sabbatical. So really a great program, a great opportunity for our partners, and we're looking forward to building upon that. So a little kind of teaser as well. I know this is the first of our sessions that we're doing here. We will be hearing more from me about the sabbatical program. So if you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out, but we will be following up with more details about the application process for nonprofits, how you can get involved, any other questions that you may want to learn about the program. So we're very excited about it and looking to build upon it in year 2.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. And thanks also to Maria and Melissa for sharing some information about each of your respective topics today. We do have time, like I said at the start, and just recently in the chat for some Q&A with any of the presenters or about anything that was discussed today. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. While we wait for any question to roll in, I will say, as Dan just mentioned, that this is the first in a series of sessions that we're planning to host to convene our nonprofit partners and share tools and resources, how we might be able to deepen and amplify our impact together. So the next session next month is on sabbatical specifically. And then in June, we will be hearing from folks at College Raptor, which is a really helpful tool for college and secondary education planning. So any communications about these sessions will come from myself or from the corporate affairs mailbox. So you can keep an eye out for those. Looks like we do have a question. How long is each financial class, Maria, and are they virtual or in person?
Great question. And thank you, Sally, so much for asking it. So we've built about 45 minutes of content. And we allow for, activities and Q&A. So each session we try to plan for about an hour. With the small business sessions, depending on the size of the group, can sometimes run about an hour and a half, but that really depends. We have like solid 45 minutes worth of content, and then we allow for 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. But obviously there's activities throughout, and we can deliver them both in person or virtually, depending on what your needs are.
Maria, that also just reminded me, and forgive me if you did say this, but the modules are available in English and Spanish, correct?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for raising that. I always forget. Yeah, so we do have all of our content is available in Spanish as well. And so, obviously we know we work with very diverse communities, and so we wanted to make sure we had content available in Spanish. For all the content in Spanish, the colleagues we mentioned, they get trained on content, but we do also make sure that they're certified through our programming to deliver those classes. So I do see a question on, do we have other languages as Korean? So yes, we are, not at the moment is the short answer, is not at the moment, but it is coming. So we are kind of looking to expand the program in other languages as we have a greater need. So with these classes, we generally have been running, and the way we coordinate them is through the community partner. And so really it depends on how much time you really need to gather the audiences. From our end, we usually like to have about like a 2 to 3 week window. Ideally like a minimum of 2 weeks to kind of find you a volunteer that's in the area that is going to be trained to kind of work with your group. So I would say at a minimum we'd need like a 2 week window for us to source a volunteer and for the community partner then also to gather the folks. And we just work directly with you on that. There is no online booking. I know our student team does kind of run some classes that they do monthly webinars for, which they can do online, but for the most part, we kind of do, we kind of coordinate that with the community organizations directly. Okay, so that's a really good question, Annie, on the student piece. So we are aiming for like high school and above, right? So we know that with some of the content you could deliver at like the middle school level, but really the sweet spot I think is like freshmen and above, because that's when we can have a greater conversation, I think, and understanding.
Thank you for that, Maria, and thanks all for your questions. We do welcome more. I'm not sure that the chat will still be accessible once the meeting ends, but like I said, each of you should have my contact information, and in the slides that you'll receive after this, you will also see Melissa and Dan's information. Looks like we do. Interesting working with Citizens Professional. How do we get started with the process? I would think that would depend on sort of the area that you're looking to expand upon. But as I mentioned, my contact information you each have, and then Dan's and Melissa's, and I believe Maria's are going to be accessible through the materials that you'll receive. We will base the communication that will follow this session upon the attendance report. So even if you didn't register, but you were still able to join us today, we'll be able to match your information and send you everything that you need. So that'll include the session recording, registration links for future sessions, and the link to the post survey so that you can share your thoughts about today's session. Thanks again to Maria, to Dan and Melissa, and to all of our partners who took the time out of their days to join us today. Really appreciate it. Know that it's always busy, especially during financial literacy and National Volunteer Months. So thank you so much for your time. And we'll give you a little bit of that back today, but we do hope to see you on future sessions and look forward to reading your feedback from today. So thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.